Welcome to No Place Like Home, the radio show coming to you on WRXB 1590 AM, 96.5 FM, and Pinellas County Connection TV. This program is presented to you as an opportunity to hear information that can help you fulfill the dream of owning your very own home. We also share information about upcoming special events and programs to help you enjoy the good life in Pinellas County, as well as other items of interest. The sponsor of this program is the Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County, which offers the First-Time Homebuyers Program. I'm Carmen Lemberg alongside Julian Hills, your host for today's show. Good morning, Julian.
Good morning, Carmen. It's September.
Can you believe it?
Where did the year go?
I don't know.
I don't either. It's really scary.
It's
like I slept for 8 months and here we are.
I'm thinking the same thing.
But I'm tired.
I am too.
So it wasn't a good sleep.
No.
Well, you won't sleep through today's show because it's very interesting. It's about the development of neighborhoods along transit lines and the progression of transit here in Pinellas County. It's actually a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I rode PSTA to high school every day for 4 years.
Cool.
So today we'll be talking with Bob Lasher with Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. Before we begin our discussion, though, Carmen, I know you have a message from our sponsor, the Housing Finance Authority.
I do. Thank you, Julian. The Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County is offering the First-Time Homebuyers Program, your key to home ownership, helping people in Pinellas, Pasco, and Polk counties make their dreams of home ownership a reality. The First-Time Homebuyers Program is for individuals who have never owned a home, have not owned a home in the last 3 years, or veterans. The HFA, working through a specialized group of lenders, offers a low rate on its 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, and we can help you with down payment and closing costs as well. We have our new program I want to remind you about, Housing Floridians, which is a special program for those who are at or below 80% of the area median income. Housing Floridians, in partnership with First Home Bank, Center State Bank, and Atlantic Coast Bank, provide a grant in conjunction with the assistance through our Home Key program. To get your key to home ownership, visit www.pinellascounty.org/HFA as in Housing Finance Authority. For more information or comments about the show, call us at 727-223-6419. Julian?
All right, Carmen, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest, Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer with PSTA. Bob joined PSTA as a community, media, and government liaison in March of 2005. He began a career as a news reporter in 1981 and worked in both radio and television until 1996. The majority of his media career was spent as a television news anchor and producer. After leaving the news business, Bob spent several years in sales and several more as a computer network administrator at Microsoft, a Microsoft certified systems engineer. Before moving home to Pinellas County and joining PSTA, Bob spent 2 years working as a public speaker, copywriter, and researcher for an award-winning marketing firm in Secaucus, New Jersey. He graduated from Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania in 1984, the BA in Political Science. Bob's work has earned award recognition from the Associated Press, New Jersey Ad Club, Southwest Transit Association, Florida Public Transportation Association, and the Transportation Marketing and Communication Association. Bob has also completed FEMA's E388 Advanced PIO training course and regularly teaches FEMA's G290 Basic PIO course throughout the state of Florida. Bob, welcome, Bob, and can you tell us a little bit about PSTA and a brief overview of the organization and what it does for residents here in Pinellas County?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a real honor to be here. And I'm going to, first things first, thank you for writing PSTA. We love our writers. I want to thank you about that. We are the transit agency for Pinellas County. And I've been here about 13 years now, and I can tell you that almost every single day, this is my first job in transit, almost every day I've learned something new about transit, why it works the way it is, how does it fund it, all of the intricacies and the regulations and what goes on. It's truly remarkable because a lot of people, my father being one of them, sit out there. They don't really know about it, but they'll just say, well, why don't they do it like this? Why don't you do it like that? And then you can spend an hour explaining to them why. So that was one of the first things I learned, and I'm still amazed at. We are funded primarily through property taxes. We were created by the state legislature. We were the merging of two former systems, Central Pinellas and St. Petersburg Municipal Transit, back in 1982. That was done actually through a referendum, and we get about 0.75 mils on your property tax, which would be 75 cents for $1,000 of taxable income on your home. That's primary funding. And public transit, like everywhere in the world, just like PSTA, does not make a profit. We are funded through governments, through taxes, through subsidies, and that's why it is public transit. Because a lot of people say, well, privatized. Well, a lot of if it can be privatized and made a profit, usually it is. Basically, where we are right now is the same amount of funding invested, and I'm talking on both sides of the bay now, PSTA and HART, same as Sheboygan, Wisconsin, or Macon, Georgia, which are much, much smaller. You combine the two of them, same as Buffalo, New York. Buffalo's got about 250,000 people. We've got, 2.4 million combined with those two counties. Wow. So that's where we are when we look at how much we spend on our transit systems versus the rest of the country. And we have been tapping every source we can at PSTA to get new sources of income so we can get better service out on the road.
Wow, that really explains a lot right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It does. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am really excited about this topic today, and I want to turn the show really over to you because I want you to tell us the history of the development of neighborhoods along transit lines and all these other great things we were talking about before the show.
Well, absolutely. And, I've got to give a shout out to the folks down at the St. Petersburg History Museum who've helped me many times through the years. Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, actually was built on transit. And this goes all the way back to the mid to late 1800s. You had a wealthy investor come down from Michigan, John Williams. Williams Park is named after him, and loved it. Wanted to invest, but he needed a way to get people in and out. You needed a way to get goods in and out. So he hooked up with an expatriate, Russian expatriate named Peter Demens. That's the guy whose Demens Landing is named after. Some people say Demons. I know at the History Museum they say Demens, so that's what I'm going to use. I defer to their expertise. Well, he was a railroad icon. So the two of them realized if they could get a railroad in here, then they could really bring the Northerners down for spring break and other things, the great weather and all of the beauty that this area offers, the paradise that we really are. And so they did. And in 1888, the Orange Belt Railroad arrived into a little town called Wardville, which was the name of St. Petersburg before St. Petersburg.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
And
No clue.
because he was of Russian descent, some of the stations along the way, particularly Clearwater and down in St. Pete, had Russian architecture. You look at it and like, wow, it does. It looks like it's right out of Russia. And it was kind of neat from that point on. Then at that point, I want to say Pinellas County was actually West Hillsborough County started growing like crazy. And by the time they were ready, they to incorporate the city, which was back in 1892, these were the two town fathers. Now, what I'm going to tell you, I was told we don't know if it's fact, but nobody's ever been able to dispute it. So the two of them wanted to decide, what are we going to name this new city? And they flipped a coin. And Peter Demens won. So he named it after his city of birth, St. Petersburg, Russia. And I can tell you that if it were not for the flip of a coin, John Williams could have won, and what we know as St. Petersburg today would have been called Detroit. And he was given the honor of naming the first big hotel. So the Detroit Hotel was the first big hotel down in St. Petersburg. It's still there. It's right by Janus Landing.
Yeah, it's right next door.
That's right, and that was the first big hotel. And that was what really started to spur things. And then by about 1903, you had some investors decide they wanted to start putting in electric streetcars and moving around the city. And that's when things really got cranking. It was kind of neat to see. We'll have some pictures of those as well. And that started to build all around what is modern-day St. Petersburg. And when you go to St. Petersburg today, your modern thoroughfares and the roads and the neighborhoods follow these lines of the streetcars. Central Avenue was the primary line of that streetcar. The Orange Belt Railroad I was talking about, that came in on First Avenue South.
Oh, wow.
And that old line back in the 80s was turned into what's now the Pinellas Trail.
Yes.
Oh my.
That was that original line, because there's another line out there today, the CSX. That's a lot newer. But when you take a look at some of the old trolley maps and you look at it, they were going to Gulfport, linked up Big Bayou, Bayboro, Coffee Pot Bayou, the Piedmont area. You see how the whole city started to build around these lines, and people would just hop on them. They'd go right downtown. They'd come out again. Some of the fun things I've seen and read about them is a lot of them were open-air trolleys. And they would go through an area they called the northern line that was running out toward the western part of the county, the jungle line. And they'd go through citrus areas where you could reach out of the car and grab fruit off the trees when they were in season. And we'll get some pictures of those up too. I've got those. Send them along. They're really neat. Some of these old cars. Most of them were bought new. Bought used. They had one new car for these, which at the time was called the St. Petersburg and Gulf Railway. And that operated privately until 1919. They went bankrupt, and the city took it over, City of St. Petersburg, and that was the beginning of public transit in Pinellas County. The St. Petersburg Municipal Transit System was born as the city took that over. And you started to see some buses coming in as well about the same time. Some of the rubber-wheeled buses, the first ones were tour buses around, I think, 1912. And around 1920, we had our first county bus, which is quite a sight to see. I know that I got it from the History Museum. I'll send a picture along of that, too. It was 2 Model T Fords welded together, and it ran from Dunedin through Clearwater all the way down to St. Petersburg and back. Didn't have a high capacity, but it was pretty neat.
Something to see.
Yeah, I would imagine it was rather a warm ride this time of year. I'm not even sure if they operated during the summer, but... As moved forward, we started to see a little bit more of used the bus system, rubber buses, to get people to this neat transit system that they'd built up, the streetcar. But after World War II, like much of the country, gas was really cheap. People were coming back from the war. They had the GI Bills. They had a lot of money. So you started to see sprawl just go nuts. And people were moving away from those areas, away from the transit service, and it got to the point where so few people were now using those trolley lines, they shut them down in 1949. Oh. And like a lot of the country now, you're seeing people, because of the density, looking back going, why did we take those out? It would be so great to have them now. Mm. And a lot of the cities around the country, you said you were from Denver, they're putting in light rail and streetcar lines, and they're very successful. So that's pretty much the basic of the beginnings. Now, you had a couple different systems grow up as the county grew. You had the St. Pete Municipal Transit System. That was down in the south end of the county, St. Petersburg. And then you had Central Pinellas Transit Authority, which was more the northern areas. And they operated for a while with each other. And it was back in the very early 80s that the legislature decided we needed to merge these. So it actually went to the voters. And each municipality, 24 in Pinellas County, voted to see if they were going to be in this new transit authority, which is the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. And almost all of them approved it. There are still 5 non-member cities: St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, Bel Air Beach, Bel Air Shore, and Kenneth City. St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island do contract for service because we provide service along our beach trolley and some of the other routes. But Kenneth City, Bel Air Shore, and Bel Air Beach are still not part of the Transit Authority. And since it's September, I do want to point something out to the folks who live in those areas because it's hurricane season. Yeah. We do provide, PSTA, if there's ever a hurricane or emergency, we become support for emergency operations. We are at their disposal. So if there's an emergency declared and an evacuation, and you live in any of those areas and a bus is coming by, all you have to do is get out on the street, flag it down. You don't need to stop. We will pick you up, take you to a shelter free of charge, bring you back from that shelter free of charge.
We want to
let people know that that's, once EOC declares, that's our Emergency Operations Center, declares any sort of evacuation level, rides become free, and we have volunteers and people out there who will help you get to a shelter. And they will stay free until the shelters are closed.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, some of the things people don't know. In emergencies, we also provide buses as cooling stations. So if you had an assisted living facility that had a fire this time of year when it's really hot, you can't have people standing outside in the heat. So we'd send over a bus. Same with firefighters. We've done it a few times for county workers who've had to work through just steaming summer days for, say, I think the last one I remember was a sewage line break. So these are some of the support functions that we also provide for the county.
Wow, that is awesome.
That is a lot of amazing history and a lot of amazing just tidbits about modern day PSTA that I didn't know.
I didn't know any of that either.
That's why I said for 13 years I've been learning something new every day. And I'm still, when it starts to get into the grant process, I have tremendous respect for people who work getting federal grant funding because that's what buys most of our buses. The federal government provides transit agencies money to buy buses based on your ridership. And in turn, you promise to run them for 12 years or 500,000 miles. We can put 500,000 miles on a bus in a blink. So for us, it's at least 12 years. And this is a partnership all across the country. And they do that as opposed to giving us money to actually run the buses, the operational funds you do locally. And they have that in place because back in the 70s, I guess it was changed in the early 80s, the federal government provided operating funds, and they realized they had some of these huge transit systems that really weren't getting any ridership because they were providing the money. The locals were saying, sure, we want more service, more service. They didn't need it, didn't justify it. So they flipped it around and said, okay, the locals will now pay operating expenses, which we do, and then they'll provide us money for buses and shelters and other hard things, capital costs. So they.
Wow. That is really interesting.
Well, now that we're talking about some of the functions of PSTA and some of the programs that you have, I've heard about the Transportation Disadvantage Program. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. This is one we've really been trying to get the word out. And being government, we don't have a lot of advertising money because there's so many neat things I'd love to advertise. This is actually a state program. They set aside money to provide discounted monthly bus passes all over the state. PSTA is the local administrator of that. And for people who make 150% of the poverty level, and I think that comes out to about $24,000 for a family of two. You might want to check me on that, but it's in that ballpark.
It's actually a little bit higher than that.
Okay, it's good. Okay. If you make less than that, 150%, and you don't have access to an automobile, you can qualify for an $11 monthly bus pass. And you would go to PSTA. You can find links to this on our website. You can go use the search function, Transportation Disadvantaged. And we'll walk you through it, fill out the forms, and it's good for 11 months. You'll have to verify that that's your income level and you don't have access. But then every month you can pick up a monthly, what they call the TD for short, for Transportation Disadvantaged, bus pass and ride all month long. It's an unlimited pass.
Wow.
And what is the website?
Oh, good point. PSTA.net. It's think of our transit system with like a net look over the county, throwing a net over the county. PSTA.net.
Perfect.
And for those who want to call in, 540-1900 is our info line. That's all things PSTA. Call that number. You'll get anything anywhere you want to go.
That is always the best information to have for folks. Now, I know you have a lot of other programs out there. Tell us a little bit about other programs you have out there that people just don't know about.
All right, let's see. We'll start off with one of the other ones I've always wanted to be able to promote more that we can. It's called the Show Me service. It teaches people how to ride. We found, years ago, people said, well, just offer free rides. It's not about paying a fare, which is $2.25, full fare one way, so much to get new people on the bus. It's the fear of doing something new, which I so understand because I like to travel, and I will take transit when I go other places. Doesn't matter how long I've worked in transit. If I go out to a new city, I was out in San Diego a few years ago, I'm nervous about taking my first trip. So we have this free service where employees will come out, we'll meet with classrooms, we'll meet with individuals, and we will show you how to plan a trip however you like, whether it's using our paper schedules and map or going online using a Google Trip Planner and using online materials or using the phone for what's our real-time system. Then we take you on a round trip to show you how it all works. How do you pay your fare? How do you tell the driver to stop? How do you watch for your stop? And then we give you a free daily pass to practice with. And we've had great success with that. We've had some folks who have some disabilities, and we will meet with them numerous times. Say they get a new doctor. Well, they'll need us to come out and show them how to get to their new doctor. We do that. So we are there to help teach people and get them on the bus, and that's something I'm really proud of.
That is one of the most incredible programs I have ever heard of, because I am one of those people that go out to do something, or route changes or something. I've always had that nervousness. So when I was younger, I used to ride the bus everywhere in the city I grew up in Boulder. But it was all getting comfort with my routes. And so I was very comfortable, just hop on the bus here, get off here, want to go over here, go here. But I'm always nervous when I got to go, and it's like, okay, what if I miss my stop? Then where am I going to wind up?
Oh,
How do I
yes.
get back? So that takes away the fear, because if you're going to show them, give them the pass, help them do that, and especially for those people that need rides, whether it's to the grocery store or the doctor, that's fabulous.
That's a big
And
deal.
that's a lot of our ridership. A little more than half the ridership are not regular riders. They are part-time riders. We have our commuters who are there every day, but the part-time riders who are going to doctors and recreation and shopping and doing their other household needs make up the majority of our riders. So, yeah, we've got a lot of people out there. And, I'll tell you a story. It's easy to do. My second day on the job, we were in an old location. A couple of bus lines come right by where I worked. So, well, get out and learn the system. So I mapped out a trip, hop out, bus comes up, I hop on it, start looking around about 20 minutes later, and I'm like, this doesn't look right. I didn't bother to check which bus it came up. I got on the wrong bus. My very first ride at PSTA was the wrong bus. It was a great ride, though. We went down to Pasadena and back. I learned a different route than I expected to. These are the kinds of things that we teach you, that we help people get comfortable with. And when you have a system where we have 40 routes, most of them run only once an hour. Mm-hmm. You want people to know, you want to be sure how to do things, because there is that uneasiness. I don't want to be stuck for an hour if I miss my bus. I don't want to make a mistake. So we try to help people get over that fear. In the meantime, as a staff, we continue to look for new ways to find funding so we can run them more often. Because all around the world, and even here in Pinellas, when we can get lines running more often, we see ridership jump.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a big deal. In 2006, when the bubble was going and we had more income, we boosted the service on US 19 from every 30 minutes to every 20 minutes. We saw a 50% increase in ridership in 6 months.
I'm sure.
50% increase. So it's that, confidence is a big deal, and that's what we're working for on both sides of the bay.
Well, we got to figure out a way how to get you guys some more money, because I am all for riding buses, and that seems to be your biggest block, is that there's no funding to make these every 30 minutes. I mean, imagine if people trying to get to work in the morning, they had every 30 minutes, so they didn't have to go out too early in the morning just to get to work on time, and if they missed it, they still had an opportunity to be just a little bit late to work. I mean,
that is a big deal. You're right. If somebody misses getting late to work, and if we have a breakdown, we'll do this. We will actually, people call us. Can you, because they get in trouble at work, we'll call the employer and say, it was our fault. We lost a bus this morning. We were running late. We will let them know. We don't want people to lose their job because, say, we had a breakdown or there was an issue. Earlier in the summer, we had a tropical storm crop up. Well, you have to be very flexible in transit. There were certain areas that we couldn't operate that day because of the flooding.
yeah.
And we put out notices, and we'll help people. We want to help. That's what we're here for. We're a service agency.
Oh, this has been just incredible, the information that you have that I never knew. I mean, this is so awesome.
Well, speaking of that, what's in store for PSTA? I understand there's some projects that you guys are starting in Clearwater and St. Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're talking about the fact that we don't get as much funding as other areas, but we do have a lot of neat things going on. We are the only agency in Florida right now to have been approved for federal funding for a bus rapid transit project between downtown St. Pete and St. Pete Beach. The beach is. We haven't actually finished the line, but right now it looks like it'll probably be going into St. Pete Beach. That's going to be really exciting, running pretty much on First Avenues north and south. Some of it will be in its own lane. So it can bypass a lot of traffic. And it's going to be limited stop, too, so it's fast. People want to get on it. Cover also parts of the hospital district,
Oh, good.
getting down to all children's and those areas so people get on and off. We're really excited about that. Hope to have that up. We're doing the designs and engineering right now within a few years. Out on Clearwater Beach, we just got money from the state, and the State Department of Transportation is looking at what they call an exclusive guideway, a lane that we can not only use for transit but for emergency evacuations if needed, and of course for first responders, using the middle portion of the Memorial Bridge. Right now that's kind of capped. It doesn't look like there's much there, but that can actually accommodate traffic. And then what we want to see is what's the best way once we get over the bridge toward the beach to get out of the traffic as well. Is it going to be on a shoulder, or will it go to the south side and then maybe come back into traffic? We will, we hope next month, start construction on a new bus bay right in Clearwater Beach, just as you get over the first little bridge. Barefoot Bay would be right on the north, and there's a city parking lot there. That'll be a cutout where we'll have room for 3 buses, so we'll be able to run our normal trolley, the Jolly Trolley. We're also looking at a new line we're hoping to get funding from the state for between Tampa International Airport and Clearwater Beach, bringing that in there.
That'd be really
Oh,
good.
my gosh.
That is something we're really excited about because it's a transfer point where we can get people to the beach quickly, to get the buses turned around that roundabout and back out, and we'll have a beautiful covered area, lots of seating, and it will be right next to the city parking lot, right there, so you can have your Lyfts, your Ubers, your taxis, any hotel shuttles, picking people up and moving them around, and if they're there for the beach, it's just it's half a block to Pier 60.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
across the street from the marina. We'll have crosswalks in, and we'll have a special light there as well that will allow the buses to move ahead of the traffic to get through that circle and come back out to speed up travel times.
Perfect.
So we're pretty excited about that. Hope to have it done by February for spring break.
Oh, wow.
That'll be
That's
amazing.
pretty
That'll be
neat.
Yes.
pretty good. That'll be awesome.
And then the other project we're hoping for, let me see, making sure I get, we're also looking at a brand new intermodal terminal working with the city. We've had our terminal here on Park Street since '97. It's been at 100% capacity since '97. It's a little older than that. And there's some new property along Myrtle, where the old Tampa Bay Times building used to be, that we're looking at the city putting in a whole new terminal there. Hope to include some sort of parking so we can have park and rides. That's something moving forward we're pretty excited about, making things nicer for the riding public. And then if we can get funding from the state or find some sources, a new Tampa International to Clearwater Beach Express service with only 4 stops
Wow.
every 30 minutes, 5 a.m. to midnight every day of the week.
Wow.
That would be awesome.
I think I have been excited about this since 2006. We've been looking at this. A lot of the plans got put on the back burner when the recession came in, but you look at these like, yeah, people will use this. They're excited about it.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the programs we're working on. And we've got a lot of technology programs we've been working with too. A new smart app that you can pay with your phone called the Flamingo. We're starting to move toward an integrated app that will include not just Uber, Lyft, PSTA, but bike share, anything transit in the Bay Area on one app. That's something that's really exciting. We've also got a new innovative partnership with Uber. We're the first in the country where there are stops, and this is called the Direct Connect program. You can look at that on PSTA.net, find out more about it, and it gets you back and forth to certain stops to get on and off the system.
That is awesome.
Very good stuff happening.
I tell you what, and we have covered so much information this morning, and it's been very, very informative and interesting. Real quick again, would you give us your website and phone number?
Absolutely. PSTA.net, and the phone number for all questions is 540-1900. That's the info line, 540-1900.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
And
My pleasure.
That's a great way to end the show. It went by quickly.
Really
and there
fast.
was so much information in that short period of time. I hope everyone got something out of it. I know I did. And so we'd like to thank our guest, Bob Lasher with PSTA, for coming and joining us.
It's a pleasure.
We'd also like to thank Pinellas County Communications Department and, of course, WRXB 1590 AM. and 96.5 FM. We look forward to having you join us next month. If you missed any part of the show or would like to view past shows, you can check out some of those historical pictures that Bob talked about by watching us on YouTube or our website. I'm Julian Hills.
I'm Carmen Lemberg.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember to make it a great day.